Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. Today's topic is going to be surviving to thrive. So a lot of people have asked me like how I've done it and how I've gotten this far. And a lot of my videos and my experience, has been on narcissistic abuse, but I've talked to several different people, other friends that do like life coaching and have been through like the similar experiences I have. And I find that like a lot of people, they don't want to identify with a title, and that's really hard for a lot of people to like admit, like I'm a codependent or, my spouse or my mother is a narcissist. So it might be a little gentler to just not come from a place of titles just yet. Although I do think there's a place for that, and it's important because you can kind of figure out what's going on in your life. And I think titles are, we have to label things for them to make sense, to be able to communicate with each other better. But I chose to do this video instead of how to know if you're with a narcissist. I'm going to do that one pretty soon, but I chose to do this one first because at the end of the day, I think that, it all lies with us, and that is the root of what's going on in our lives. So, um, you probably have already watched my video, or if you haven't, you can watch my previous video called Am I Codependent? And so let's say, you're at the point where you say, yes, I am codependent, or you just realize that you're like in an abusive situation, or your life is spinning out of control. And a lot of those things that I mentioned maybe it resonated with you. So I it took me a lot, you guys, to get to a better place, because a lot of the people that contact me, like I said, they just want to vent and they just want to talk about the situation they're in and how there's no way out. And, I can't leave this person because I don't have a job, or I'm on disability, or I'm sick, or, who will take care of my kids. And they have all these, not just excuses, but they're valid points, they're valid reasons of why they think they can't get out of the situation that they're in. And, I understand those. I have compassion and empathy for that. But um, you got to a place of being stuck gradually. So you're not going to get unstuck instantaneously, but there are steps that you can take to gain back control of your life. So, like in my situation, the most recent thing that was kind of the turning point in me getting help for myself was, being in a relationship with someone with very narcissistic traits who had a drug dependency problem. And I ended up getting pregnant, and I'm a nurse, so I was on disability. I needed surgery, so I couldn't work, and um, I was on a limited income with disability and everything. And so I felt very trapped. I had the kids, and I just, I was trying to keep everything together, because once I realized there was a chemical dependency problem, now it was like, well, I don't want to lose my children, but I love this person. And it was just really difficult, trying to balance everything and feeling really stuck. So, the first thing that I would say you need to do when you realize that you're in a situation that seems impossible is you get a support system. So, for me, it really took a lot, but I started going to Al-Anon and Coda because I thought that was going to help me deal with him, my significant other. Like, how can I fix them? And so I started going to those support groups. And what I found in Coda and Al-Anon was I could give myself peace and stability and security, regardless of what the other person in my life was doing. That Coda and Al-Anon were not about changing and controlling the behaviors of other individuals, but of recognizing what we want to put up with and accept in our lives, and establishing boundaries. So at that point, I also had started going to therapy, and we had done some couples therapy, and then I did individual therapy with a company, a counseling company that is partnered with my church. They're actually part of my church. And so when I was really struggling, which was one of the times I had separated from my ex, and he had gone to rehab, and I was under the impression, that he was working on himself, but I was stuck in the situation where I couldn't afford the bills. And I didn't know how I was going to move forward with my pregnancy and our relationship. Was I going to give him another chance, and all this kind of thing? So I reached out to my church, and I emailed, and I said, this is my situation. I don't even know what I'm asking for, but I need some kind of help. And luckily, I'm partnered with a great church, and I'm a member of a great church that I've been a member of since I was a kid. So they reached out and helped me in all kinds of ways: financial, spiritual, emotional. They had all kinds of recommendations for me. So that was one way that I took responsibility in my life to get help, because I got to a point where I was done looking for him to get things together and to make me happy and to fix the situation. So I realized that I was going to need to do some certain things on my own. So I started there. And that's when I started going to therapy with the counselor from my church. Then over time, as we tried working things out and his disease of addiction progressively got worse, I took certain steps. Like, I did end up having him removed from the house with a restraining order, to protect my children and myself. And I was still very much in love, but there comes a point in life where you can't keep pointing the finger at these other people that are ruining your life, or that are breaking your heart, or when you've tried and you've tried and you see that nothing's changed. I tell these people that contact me, like, what are you going to do about it? What actions are you taking to take care of yourself? So for me, the restraining order was a necessity, because he would not leave the residence, and I was worried about the safety of my kids. So that's something I had to do. That was not easy at all, but because of taking care of myself and going to therapy and really learning what a real relationship of love, a give and take relationship looked like, that helped me to establish some boundaries. And then when he would violate those boundaries, I had to take certain actions, because we teach people how to treat us, right? So if I say, you can't be in the home if you're intoxicated in any sort of way, and he shows up intoxicated and I let him in, then now I'm risking, the safety of my children. I'm risking my own safety. There was times, where I couldn't even sleep at night, because he would be up pacing and back and forth, and all the lying, and I felt like I was going insane. So I get it, when these people contact me and they're like, I'm stuck and there's nothing I can do and I don't see a way out. But there is things you can do. And actually, I went to church this morning, and the message was about rejection and how we fear rejection. And one of the three steps that the pastor gave us was, take advice from those. Be careful who you take advice from, because there's going to be tons of people out there giving you advice. And that's kind of what I tried to. It's actually absolutely what I tried to, warn my ex about, because I feel that he's somebody that very much seeks the approval of outside people, and he very much, wants everybody to like him. So I would tell him, that stuff doesn't matter. Like, the people that matter are the ones that are going to be there no matter what, and the ones that are actually living the kind of lifestyle that you want for yourself. So when you're venting, especially to other victims of abuse, it's great to have people that understand you, but we can get wrapped up in a perpetual cycle of being a victim if we only vent to other victims, and they can be like, oh yeah, me too, and that's happening to me too, and there's no way out for me either. So they're just saying that you become like the five people you spend the most time with. So I would really recommend that you find people that have the kind of life that you want for yourself, and you gravitate towards those people, and you learn from those people, and you glean wisdom from those people. And that's what I had to do, because I really had no support system. And the support that I did have was from my biological family, that there's still a lot of psychological, generational dysfunction there. So for me to vent and get advice from people that are not living the kind of life that I want for myself, I mean, what's the benefit of that? So I really, I became friends with people from the church. I made a family out of the people from Coda and Al-Anon. And there would literally be days where I would call 5 different people from Coda or Al-Anon, because I knew I was probably too much work for just one person. And that's the thing, we need so much help that we need to build our own support system and realize that no one else is going to save us. And being a victim of abuse, it's really hard to do that, because you just want someone to come and make it right. All these wrongs have been done to you, you want someone to make it right. But I had to realize that the only one that was going to make the situation right was going to be me. And then maybe, one day my ex would get it together for himself. But me trying to save his life and get him sober, and telling him he needed to be that way for his daughter, and such and such and so on and so forth, it wasn't working. And I saw something on Facebook a while back that said basically, like, how hard it is to try to change yourself. Like, imagine how hard it is to try to change another human being. So if we have this much struggle and it takes this much effort to improve ourselves and better ourselves and change our habits and, you know, generational dysfunction in our lives, like how do can we possibly think that we're going to change another person who isn't really dedicated and motivated to changing themselves? So that's, that's a waste of time and energy. Even when they're saying they want help, I mean, if you don't see it in the action, and if you're dealing with a narcissist, there'll be a lot of lip service, like I want to change, or they might even check into rehab. But I'll do a video on that eventually, how you can kind of tell the difference. Someone that really wants to change and someone that's just going through the motions to keep their supply. By supply, I mean the person that either takes care of them or benefits their ego in some kind of way. So there is, some disillusionment there when dealing with someone with narcissistic behaviors, because they're really good at making you think that whatever it is that you want to think, they're really good at mirroring that. But for the most part, if we're really honest with ourselves, there's tons of red flags when you're in an abusive relationship. There's tons of things that prove to you, no matter what this person says, that it's not really their intention. And so there comes a point in time where you have to take responsibility. So I took the responsibility of having my ex removed from the home. And, at the time I was really praying and hoping that that was going to be the jolt that he needed, his rock bottom, to say, all right, well, I'm losing my family. What do I have to do to get myself together? And unfortunately, that's not the way it went. He spiraled out of control really quickly. And within 4 months, he had pretty much lost everything and, committed some crimes and done all kinds of things that landed him in some legal trouble and back in rehab. So we have to, whether you believe in God or universe or whatever it is, I say let go and let God. We have to be willing to accept that God might tell us no, not right now, but I want you to go in this direction, or I want you to do this thing. And you know I've really learned to love myself, and that's why I look like I'm doing so well, and I am doing so well. I hear some things sometimes about my ex that breaks my heart, that he's struggling with, or those flare-ups will happen. I'll hear something about something that he did when we were in our relationship, and it'll hurt for a minute, but I think about it and I'm doing so much better for myself, and I just remind myself, like, that's why I'm not in that situation or that relationship anymore. And thank God, I took the actions to protect my children and myself, and we have peace in our lives now. And so since having my daughter, I went ahead and got the surgery that I needed, and I've gone back to work, and I ended up moving to like one of my dream locations, and I have this great home. And you know I could have been like, I can't afford this place, it's too expensive, it's too nice, all these things. But I ended up getting bigger than really I could afford, and more expensive than I could afford, and I rented out a room. So there's always ways to get what we want in life. We just need resources. And so I got a lot of those resources from finding other people that knew how to function well in life, and were doing the things and living the way that I wanted to live. So I could glean wisdom from them and apply it to my own life. Um, I got to go to my Al Anon meeting yesterday that I haven't been to in a few months because of my work schedule. I wasn't compatible with that meeting, but I got to go back yesterday, and they actually celebrated my 1 year in Al Anon for me, because I missed it because I've been gone. I've been going to Al Anon about a year and a half, maybe a little bit longer. But they celebrated my 1 year, and I got this beautiful journal, and everyone had written these really nice words of encouragement in there about how they thought I was a great mother, and the transformation they saw in me since I started going was inspirational, and how they loved how open I was. And one of the ladies that is kind of like one of the leaders of the meeting, I mean, there's not really leaders, but she's kind of one of the OGs, in our Al Anon meeting. Her daughter was there, and she came up to me after the meeting and told me that, my story touched her, and that she wanted my number. And I gave her, my YouTube channel, my number. And I'm just so grateful that I can use the experience that I went through to help other people and teach them that you really never are hopeless. You've got to feed yourself emotionally, spiritually. You got to get the psychological help you need to think straight, to not be in that cycle of abuse. And if you're a victim of narcissism, to not be a victim of that, and to not accept the craziness. And you got to be able to see the forest through the trees, and straighten out your thinking. And that's a big order in the beginning. It's hard to imagine how we could ever do that, but I would definitely say, it was by building my support group and finding people that had wisdom. And one of the ladies from our group, she's on hospice now, and we were just all talking about how much she brought to the group and how much wisdom she shared and how that lives on through us and how much we're going to miss her. So that's something that I feel so blessed to have, is these meetings where I can really glean this wisdom from all these great people, men and women that have been through like similar situations. So I would definitely say, going to meetings if possible. If you can't physically go to meetings because of your health or your transportation or whatever, I mean, if you're watching this video, then you can go on coda.org and Al-Anon's website, and they have apps, and you can do phone meetings, you can do online meetings. I mean, there's really no excuse of why you can't get a meeting. Another thing that I did was I was on YouTube all the time. Learning about drug addiction and unhealthy relationships, how to establish boundaries. I love Ross Rosenberg. He teaches a lot on codependency. There's Lisa A. Romano, who's a life coach. I just really, I mean, I did guided meditations for anxiety. I did guided meditations for healing. I listened to solfeggio frequencies and binaural beats to sleep because I had sleep problems. Anything that I could do to try to help heal myself and become stable and, really be a strong woman and a strong person of God and, my faith, and really pull myself out of that pit because my kids needed me and I knew that, and there was going to be nobody else that could do the job that I believe God intended for me to do. So that was another thing that I did. YouTube and the internet research. We pour all this time into being victims and talking about what we're going through and all the pain and writing poetry and listening to sad songs. Put that energy into making yourself better and stronger. Another thing that I did was I joined a ton of Facebook support groups for codependency, abuse survivors, narcissistic abuse recovery, and I made a family in there. And I needed to vent, a lot for months. I needed to vent, and I did that. And now I'm kind of through that stage of venting and telling all my horror stories and getting advice on what to do. And when I was weak and I wanted to contact my ex and I wanted to do all these things that I knew would perpetuate that vicious cycle, I had hundreds, literally hundreds of people pour into me and explain to me, where this is going to go, and what's going to happen, and you got those two beautiful children, and you're strong, and you can do this. And I needed that because I didn't have anyone in my life personally that could devote that much time and energy to me. But when you reach out through social media, you can have literally the support of hundreds, if not thousands, of people at any given moment. 2 in the morning, you can post in these groups that are private. I set my groups to private so that my family and friends couldn't see what groups I was a member of. So I had my anonymity, and I could post about whatever I was going through, and there would be people from literally all over the world right there at my fingertips to give me advice and help me through, like when I was having a crisis. So that was another thing that I did that really, I feel like, saved my life. Um, and at the end of the day, I stopped making excuses for why my life was going to hell in a handbasket. Why I was a big ball of shit. Like, I realized that it was up to me. No matter how much I love this other person, you can't love another person to the point of destroying yourself, because then everyone else you love suffers too. And I have these two kids. Maybe you don't have kids, but you have friends and you have people that you can help. And nobody, like, I relate it to watching my ex suffer with his drug addiction. Nobody wants to see someone they love suffering, and it affects them, and it affected me. So if you're suffering, it's going to affect the people that love you, and it's hard on them too. And sometimes the people in our lives are just as unhealthy, and they can't help us. We're, if we have mommy or daddy issues, we're waiting for them to reach out and fix us and make us feel loved. And the people that put you in this position are not going to be the people that save you. And that's unfortunate, but it gives us so much power. And I'm just so grateful to have learned all of this stuff and to be able to help other people. So, that was the topic of my video today, is surviving to thrive. Like, we don't want to just survive abuse or unhealthy relationships or dysfunction. We want to use it to thrive in our lives. So I'm definitely trying to do that, just apply everything that I've learned. And it's not perfect. Like, I'm not going to say that I, have years of experience of this, or I'm a multi-billionaire or anything like that. But I can definitely tell you that I'm very happy in my life right now. And just because you choose to get better doesn't mean you necessarily have to cut out the people that are unhealthy in your life, but you can compartmentalize them, and just know that, like, Mom was never really there for me in this situation, so I'm not going to rely on mom to be there in the future. I'm going to build these other people, and I can enjoy mom as my mom. We can go to lunch and we can do all these other things, but I'm not going to need her to support me in that way that I needed in the past when I was dealing with that hurt inner child. Like, I'm going to nurture my own inner child and actually watch videos on how to do that too, guided meditations for healing the inner child. So, just because you're getting better doesn't mean you necessarily have to cut everybody out, but it just means, learn what to expect from certain individuals and be realistic in what you can expect, and build the foundation, build the support group, the support system that you need. Our topic in Al-Anon yesterday was tribes, and how we were part of this tribe that we all poured into and created, and we're there for each other and we answer each other's calls, and we are what we need each other to be when everyone else in our lives maybe isn't. And so that's how I'm doing it, guys. I took responsibility for the fact that there was a void in me, there was a hurt inner child, and how can I nurture that inner child, and the relationships with the people that could not give me the love that I needed. I either cut them out of my life, or I just learned not to expect so much from them and not to take it personal, and fill up my cup in the ways that I could and with people that I knew would benefit me so that I could actually benefit other people. And there is a time and a place for venting and being miserable and crying. You want to cry. I actually cried the other day for the first time in months, and I was actually really proud of myself because I was like, "Oh wow, I still feel." And that's good. Like, we don't need to run from those feelings. We just need to acknowledge them and then learn how to talk to them. So, like, guiding your inner child, for example, the meditations will teach you, you'll go back to certain memories and you'll ask that inner child how they feel, and then you can accept that feeling, but then now you tell the inner child, like, well, you're an adult now, and yeah, maybe your mom wasn't there for you, but so and so is here for you now, and you're able to take care of yourself, and you're able to pay your own bills, and you don't have to worry about not feeling safe, and that if you don't feel safe, you know the proper avenues to go to make yourself feel safe. So that's kind of how you nurture the inner child, and there's videos on YouTube about that. But I really hope this helped you guys. That's how I'm doing it, and I'll get into more specifics about narcissistic abuse and stuff like that. But I thought it was more important to get the message out that we can change and we are responsible for ourselves, and how I'm doing it. And I think that's really important because we can know there's a problem, but if we don't know how to fix it, then what do we do, right? So that's it, you guys. Please like and subscribe to my channel if you like what I'm telling you, if you feel like it's beneficial, if it could help someone else you know. Like and subscribe to me. Love you guys so much. You can leave questions and comments in the video, in the comments for me to do future videos on. And we're surviving to thrive. Okay, love you guys. Bye.